Ohio State's ability to dominate in its base defense is great, but they can't stay in it all game.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, here on Wednesday, August 14th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ohio State has something in their bag that not a lot of schools in the country have the ability to do. They're able to dominate their opponent in its base defense. A lot of schools in the country would love to even be able to dominate in its base defense throughout a portion of a game or a quarter, but Ohio State's able to do that for the majority of the game against most opponents. Now, it's great. It's cool. Ohio State's full of talent that'll be in the NFL in the future, and Tyleik Williams and Tuimoloau and Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom and Denzel Burke. Like, I could keep going down the list, but Ohio State's one of those rare teams. When you have this much talent, you should be able to dominate in your base defense. But there's a danger in that thought. There's a danger in actually doing that, is sometimes you become predictable. And Jim Knowles must make sure that Ohio State's defense doesn't become predictable. Yeah, it may work against Western Michigan, against Akron, against Michigan State, but against those teams like Oregon and Penn State and Michigan and whoever the Buckeyes play in the conference title game and whoever they play in the playoff, in those big-time matchups, it might come back to bite you if you're constantly playing in your base defense all game. One thing I love about defense, and I love when I play defense, is just being able to be a little bit more aggressive, not being able to be – it's a little bit more read and react on defense, but while reading and reacting, there's a level of aggression that you need in that moment. Even on offense, when I was playing offensive line, I love the aggressive nature of football. I love the ability to go out there, and the players do too. They love the ability to go out there, and no matter if you're playing on the O-line or the D-line or just playing football in general, they love being aggressive. It's part of what makes football players great. It's that aggressive nature that they have. Now, Jim Knowles realized from 2022 until 2023, there was something that had to change, because you might need to go back, and maybe some of you remember the fact that 2022, Ohio State gave up a lot of explosive plays. 2021 was not a good year defensively for Ohio State. 2022 was better, but it still was not an amazing year for the Buckeyes defense. Last year was a whole different story, as the Buckeyes barely gave up any explosive plays. I believe their first play of over 40 yards in a game last year was a 4th and short fumble-rooski call by Rutgers late in the regular season. That's just to talk about how big of a jump the Buckeyes made from 2022 to 2023. But being in your base defense, Jim Knowles recalls some things that happened against Missouri in the bowl game, and he realized, hey, yeah, being predictable, it's not great. And Ohio State can't be predictable this year. Got to realize and figure out ways to utilize and tap into the aggressive side and some aggressive play calls. So, one, you're not predictable, but for two, you can always have the upper hand on the opposition. Here's Jim Knowles talking about this very topic. Quote, look at our last game against Missouri. We had a shutout pretty close to the fourth quarter. Sometimes you reach those points here where I don't want to be the one to mess them up. I want them to be able to face it. It's not about what I know or being creative. When you're going good, I think that's the balance. We're going good. Hey, we're going good. Let's just keep it going. But when you stay in anything too long, when you become predictable, it really doesn't matter who you're playing. They're going to take some kind of, like Missouri did, run this guy all the way across to the other hash for a long touchdown, end quote. He's right. Absolutely right. Many of you right now are like me, and you have played the new college football video game. You either play it on the Xbox or the PlayStation. What are you doing? You're trying to figure out, hey, this new passing system, how do we make that thing shake? You got the blue meter, if you got the yellow, you got the red. Which one do you want to be in? Okay, cool. You figure out the sweet spot, great. But one thing you realize in any video game, not just CFB 25, college football 25, that is, or any other video game, if you do something in the first quarter and the second quarter, all of a sudden, sometimes in the third quarter, you make those halftime adjustments, and all of a sudden, the things you were doing that, hey, you did that same thing over and over and over for the first 2 quarters of the game, you became predictable. And when you become predictable, yes, I know it's a video game, but the opposition is going to make adjustments, going to make tweaks to overcome the things you're doing because you're predictable. And if you keep doing that same thing in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, you become predictable, and the opposition is going to find a way to slow you down. Same thing at Ohio State. He mentioned Missouri, and I think Missouri is one of those teams last year that going into the game, people looked at them and said, oh, they should lose to Ohio State. Like, it should be a done deal. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's the Buckeyes. It's that emblem. It's that Block O versus Missouri. Yeah, I know they're in the SEC, but they're not up to the caliber of Ohio State. And then what happened? Yeah, there were some injuries. There were some guys that weren't available to play in that game. But honestly, Missouri outplayed Ohio State all 4 quarters. Now, yes, Ohio State probably had enough good players to win that game. But the game plan wasn't good enough. The execution was even worse. In Ohio State's defense, while being predictable, even though things are going good, yeah, it's kind of tricky to figure out, do I push that button to try to make things a little bit more aggressive or to soften them up just to see exactly what happens, or do I not do it and just hope things stay the way they are so far? It's a very, very tricky thing and very touchy. If you do it too much at the wrong time, it could come back to bite you. Now, Ohio State this year, the luxury that they have on defense, you got Caleb Downs, you got Lathan Ransom, you got Jordan Hancock, you got Igwinosin, you got Denzel Burke. Easily, on paper right now, one of the best defensive secondaries in the entire country. And I even think in the regular season, I know it's on paper because the season hasn't started, I even think in the season, it'll be one of the best secondaries in the entire country. What kind of luxury does that allow for Ohio State in the pass coverage game? You can provide and you can be a little bit more aggressive at times. You can do some things differently with your front 4 and then your 2 linebackers, because the guys in the back half of the defense, they're going to control things. They're going to understand things. And remember, even though you build teams from the front, from the inside out, Jim Knowles' defense is a safety-driven defense. Now, even though it's a safety-driven defense, and technically Hancock in this defense is a safety, one thing you got to realize, it don't matter how good Downs, Ransom, or Hancock are. They can't be as productive as they want to be if Hamilton and Williams and Sawyer and Tuimoloau don't do their job. So if the front 4 is doing their job, if the guys in the back are doing that job, that makes the linebacker's job a whole lot easier, and it actually makes things a whole lot easier for Jim Knowles to be able to be a little bit more aggressive and to not be predictable this year. That's the mission. Don't be predictable. You can be predictable. Ohio State can and win almost every game this year, make the playoff, and make some noise late in the season. That's the reality. That's just like last year. Nobody's trying to have the same song and dance as the Buckeyes had a year ago. Here's what you got to do. Don't be predictable. Mix things up. Figure out the right formula for every opponent and let the chips fall where they may. And we all believe if they fall where they may, the Buckeyes will make a deep playoff run and could very well find themselves not only playing in the Natty, but winning that thing at the end of the season. One thing I love this time of year is trying to hear, what about the Rushman package and questions like that, or who's going to be a part of that group? Well, I got a guess, a little prediction about who will be a part of the Buckeyes Rushman package this year. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. We're almost to the start of the college football season. The season starts on August 24th, which means a lot of our attention will be on college football. But in between now and then, there are numerous Major League Baseball games that we could enjoy. Maybe you might be trying to make some last-minute decisions with your boys or your family and trying to figure out, hey, can we go to a game? Oh, yeah, which game can we go to? Here's the game. And we're trying to find a place to find tickets that helps us take the guesswork out of buying the baseball tickets. That place is Gametime. Download the Gametime app Create an account and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. In their grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or maybe even wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They are family owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Ohio State's Rushman package is unlike anything any other school can provide in the country. Yes, most schools in college football, they have a front four, and there's not, and then there's a major drop-off or a somewhat of a drop-off, a significant drop-off from the ones to the twos in the defensive line room. Ohio State's not that way. There's a drop-off. You're going to have guys on the ones that are going to be future day one, day two picks, day three picks as well in the upcoming NFL draft. Well, the guys on the twos, there's question marks, but they're still really, really, really talented, which is always why I'm trying to figure out every year, every offseason, who's going to be a part of Ohio State's Rushman package. You know, that third and long, second and long package that you might roll a group of four out there that you know, hey, obvious passing situation. These are going to be the four down linemen or the four linemen. I'll explain this in a second. That'll be a part of that group that will, rush the passer. And I think Ohio State's the luxury for them is that two of the four guys in the Rushman package this year, my prediction here, they're starters. I believe that when it comes to the Rushman package, the ideal pass rush unit or defensive line, when obvious passing downs are there for Ohio State, the two defensive ends on the outside, move them into D-tackle in Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. And then who replaces them on the outside? Well, one guy's Mitchell Melton, because I've heard so many things that people believe and say, hey, Mitchell Melton might be the best pass rusher on Ohio State's defense. And those were things that were said about Mitchell Melton a year ago. Unfortunately, he's been hit by the injury bug pretty hard, which has set him back in his development and has set him back in being able to get a lot of PT. So I do believe Mitchell Melton, as long as he stays healthy, he is that guy in the Rushman package. Then who's the other defensive end? Kenyatta Jackson Jr. He is someone that people say, hey, look, when it clicks, y'all better watch out. Y'all better be careful. Y'all better be on top of your game. Y'all better wait and see exactly what is going to happen with this young man. Now, this is one of those things here. We all look forward to this. There may be times with this as well that Ohio State doesn't bring in Melton or Jackson Jr. in this situation. And let's just say Ohio State says, well, we're going to run a 3-down lineman and we're not going to run a 4th defensive lineman. Who is going to be the 4th guy on the line of scrimmage on defense? Here's another thing. You got Mitchell Melton, I think will still stay in. JT, you got Jack. Let's say Jackson Jr. comes out. Why not have CJ Hicks at a 2-point stance on the outside? It doesn't seem like it's that crazy to me. Everybody keeps saying, and the word out of fall camp this year is CJ Hicks, his aggressive nature. When you just let him loose, when he's blitzing, he does a lot of good things. So many good things, it's going to be hard to take him off the field. Well, how about you tap into that in obvious passing situations? Yes, he is different. He has a different build, a different body type than Tuimoloau and Sawyer. That's not a problem, though. I believe he's the kind of guy off the edge that can do damage, can wreak havoc, a relentless pursuit of the quarterback at that spot. CJ Hicks can do that. And then if Ohio State are going somewhere here, if Ohio State and Jim Knowles want to do and utilize and pull off the jack position that we have been talking about since Jim Knowles got hired as Ohio State defensive coordinator, and we have not seen yet, let's just say they want to utilize that jack position. I think there's a scenario, even in obvious passing downs, where you have the nose or the middle guy be Tyleik Williams. Then at one D-end spot, you got Jack. At the other D-end spot, you got JT. And in that Jack position, you got Melton or you got Hicks. I think Ohio State, I'm really writing this down on my paper right now, just trying to keep this thing in mind. And it's been on my brain for a while. But I firmly believe that Ohio State has such a luxury, not just in not being able to be in base defense consistently, like we talked about earlier in the show, but also being able to have different variations of, hey, Rushman package. We can have 4 or 5 guys or 6 guys that, hey, any of the 6 can get called at any moment to go out there. Hey, that jack spot, we can have a combination of 4 or 5 guys. Only 4 are going to be on the field to play in those spots. Why? Because Ohio State's that talented. And if you don't want to take Tyleik Williams off the field in some of these situations, buddy, let him play that nose. Let him be one shade or another on the center. And then let JT and Jack do their thing. Or maybe, just maybe, you want to say, hey, Jack, JT, y'all could be a 3 tech, put Tyleik Williams at a 1 tech, and then what are you going to find? The variation, the wrinkles that Ohio State needs to throw into their defense, these are the things that opposing offensive coordinators don't want to deal with. So, yeah, the Rushman package is fun. I know we talked about it a lot here on the show when Chase Young was here, and it's like, oh, well, this is that, or Zach Harrison was here, and it's, oh, it was that, or Tyreek Smith was here, and it's, oh, it's that. We talk about it a lot. I think this year, Ohio State has a luxury. They don't have the speed rusher starting that you may want to have, that you may want them to have. They don't have that this year. Also, newsflash, that's not a problem. Sawyer and Tuimoloau not being the traditional or your normal speed rusher off the edge, that's not a problem for Ohio State. They'll still be able to get into the backfield. They'll still be able to get sacks. Sawyer might once again lead Ohio State in sacks once again. My early prediction for that category right now is Tuimoloau, because I think we're going to find he's going to have a career year this year, even though he's going to have a lot of attention on him. I think the emergence of Jack Sawyer in the middle of last year is going to take some of the attention off of Tuimoloau, which is going to do what? Open doors for that young man to just run right through them and destroy the quarterback. I believe that wholeheartedly. The Rushman package this year is going to be a lot of fun to watch. What do you think? Do you think this will be the Rushman package with Melton, Tuimoloau, Sawyer, and Jackson Jr.? Or do you think there's another group of 4 that will be the Rushman package for Ohio State this year? Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section on this video, or maybe in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I would love to hear what you have to say or what your thoughts are about this topic. Now, one thing we do in the season, every single season, on Wednesdays, it's a stock watch. Stock up, stock down. Now, the season hasn't started yet, but the stock watch is back. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. Stock up, stock down is back. A fall camp edition of the Ohio State Stock Watch. It's going to be so much fun to kind of do this all year long, and we'll probably do this every single Wednesday, even though there will be some before the Buckeyes take the field to kind of gauge who's moving up with the stock and who is falling down. Stock up right now on Will Howard. His stock has been rising throughout Ohio State fall camp, throughout Ohio State's offseason, spring practice, winter workouts. Will Howard has done a lot of things to gain the attention of his peers, of Ryan Day, the head coach, of Denzel Burke, one of the leaders on the defense. He has done a lot of great things. And I think one of the things that kind of sticks out in my mind right now was not the accuracy that's been discussed and about how it's been improving. It is not that. One of the things that sticks out in my mind about Will Howard is he came to Ohio State, and I believe he was about 249 pounds, a tick under 250. And then all of a sudden, he's down to, at one point, 237 when they were doing the speed testing this offseason. Now he's down to 230, 235. His body fat percentage has dropped. He's the fastest quarterback in the room at 6'4", between 230 and 235 pounds. Those are the things that I think speak volumes about Will Howard, which is also goes into why he is performing the way he is during fall camp, why he is still in the mix to be Ohio State starting quarterback. I mean, he transferred to Ohio State to start. Many of us believe he's going to start, but Ryan Day needed to see more. Denzel Burke needed to see more from Will Howard. Denzel Burke has seen what he's needed to see. Ryan Day, I think he's seen it as well, just not really named it just yet because they were going to evaluate things after the Buckeyes scrimmage last weekend. Look, Will Howard is a guy that Ohio State needs to start this year if they want to go to the promised land, and I got an early stock watch going up, keeps going up for Will Howard. Stock up on Jeremiah Smith. I mean, I've been saying this for a while, and I keep thinking about Jeremiah Smith, about what he might be this year. Think about how many true freshmen have been hyped up at Ohio State since you've been a fan. Or maybe you're not a fan, you're just typing into Locked On Buckeyes here during the offseason. Think about whatever college football team that is your favorite team. Think about all the true freshmen that have come in that have been hyped up. Does their hype of those guys come close to the hype that's surrounding Jeremiah Smith right now? Probably not. I mean, people are saying right now that Jeremiah Smith is the best high school football wide receiver prospect since Randy Moss. They ain't just saying that to fill space in an article or in a show. People are saying that because they truly believe, one, Randy Moss was that dude. I mean, I haven't heard anybody discuss a high school receiver in the way they talk about Randy Moss. And then there's Jeremiah Smith. He's real, man. He's got the belief of Ryan Day. He's got the belief of Denzel Burke. Him and IGB are going back and forth talking the trash. Jeremiah Smith, the stock continues to rise, and homie hasn't played a game yet in Scarlet and Gray in the regular season. I can't wait to see it, though. I cannot wait to see number 4 in the roster. He might be number 1 in your heart. Play in the Scarlet and Gray, play in the shoe, and make some noise and not bust heads like a linebacker will, but he might embarrass a defensive back or two throughout the season because he is that good. Stock up on G. Scott Jr. and James Peoples. Now, we all realize when Dallin Hayden decided to enter the transfer portal that Ohio State's running back room took a hit. That came after Chip Trayanum left, after Evan Pryor left. So Ohio State, when you think about, hey, you're going to have this room with 4 guys, and I think you lose 3 guys. You got Henderson. You know Peoples and Williams Dixon would be here, but you didn't know Judkins would be here. Now, with Henderson and Judkins, that's great. But James Peoples realized, hey, Trayanum, Pryor, Hayden are gone. They're gone. This is an opportunity for me to move up the depth chart. Unfortunately, TC Coffey suffered a season-ending injury. Cool. That's bad. It also allowed Peoples to move up the depth chart. His body is ready. He's a guy performing. He's gaining more trust with Carlos Lachlan. He is someone that in that third running back hole, RB3, he's going to be able to step up and answer the call there. Stock up for James Peoples as a true freshman. I know Ohio State doesn't want the true freshman to be in this situation, but they're gaining more trust and belief for James Peoples to be the guy to be the third running back at Ohio State this year. I also said G. Scott Jr. kind of couple those guys in. Neither one is going to start, which is why they're going to be in. But Ohio State's tight end room, G. Scott might be the guy who is more of the passing threat for the Buckeyes in the tight end room. And you might find Will Kazmarek is more of the run blocker in the tight end room. That's great. But we have been waiting for G. Scott Jr. to have a breakout year for the Buckeyes. Came into Ohio State as a receiver, realized, hey, the best spot for me to get on the field might not be a receiver. It will be at tight end. And we all knew as well, that would be a slow progression, a slow development process, because going from playing receiver, being a highly sought after recruited receiver, to playing tight end, it ain't easy. That's not an easy transition. What do we find, though? G. Scott Jr. has worked. He's got his body weight up. He's been able to figure out how to block, figure out how to get in a stance, to come out of a stance, figure out all the details, the minute details of playing tight end, while also being able to keep his ability to catch the rock and move upfield that way. G. Scott Jr., stock up, young man. Stock down on Michigan naming. Now, I know it's changed, but they initially named Jim Harbaugh as an honorary captain for the first game of the year. Now, since that actually happened, Jim Harbaugh has declined the offer and says no, he's going to be staying with the Chargers as they prepare for the NFL season. Okay, cool. Like, it didn't matter if he came in or did not come in. Like, that don't matter to me. But Michigan, why in the world would you do this? Your school's under investigation. He just got caught he just got handed down a punishment for recruiting infractions during the COVID dead period. I think it's a 4-year show cause, a 1-year suspension if he decides to come back to college football. And that's for that situation. That's not talking about what might happen or what he might go through, what punishment he might get if he decides to come back to college football when the NCAA hands down punishments for the Connor Stallions-led sign-stealing scheme. He's going to get hit hard. Why now? Yeah, one investigation is closed. This comes on the heels of that punishment being handed down. Another investigation is still going on. It would have been cool to just wait. Now you want to honor the man that led the team to an undefeated national championship a year ago. Wait on that thing, though. This is a really bad look. It don't look good for y'all. And I'm like, y'all could do better, or maybe you could. I'm not ready to try to go that far, but that was just very, very confusing. Stock down on preseason polls. I'm out. I am completely out on preseason polls. The AP puts out one. Locked On's put on one before. I'm not knocking. I understand preseason polls. I even said, hey, here's how things would go if I were to do them. But I feel like they're played out. Also, when it comes to a preseason poll, it's very hard to make a poll when nobody's played a game. Nobody in college football has played a game yet. But y'all are asking people all around the country, media members, hey, AP, hey, coaches poll, hey, On3 has a poll. CBS Sports did a poll ranking all 134 FBS schools. Don't y'all realize that sometimes doing stuff for clicks and to fill space in an article, sometimes it ain't worth it? Now, it does give you talking points during talking season, so I guess for that sake, it does provide something for you. But preseason polls? Y'all, I'm out, man. I am out, 100% out on preseason polls. They don't need them. They don't need them at all. Also, stock down on the injury bug, man. I talked about TC Coffee earlier. That thing's horrible. It's horrible. The running back room once again hit with the injury bug. While the injury bug has been a cancer for Ohio State over a few years, TC Coffee got hit by this thing twice. Yo, I don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it either. Stock down on the injury bug. Keep that thing away from Ohio State. Keep that thing out of here because the Buckeyes got big plans in 2024, and the injury bug is one of those things that could be an obstacle that Ohio State might not be able to get over. Oh, I don't want to think about it. Don't want to think about it at all. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. Now's the perfect time to go out and make the Locked On College Football Podcast your second listen of the day. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter. That's what we call it around here. At jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're out of here on a hump day. We'll see you next time.